We've halved inflation while dealing with cost of living pressures while creating on our watch 1 million jobs. We are making sure that Australians are looked after at what are difficult global economic times.
Joining me is Leith Van Onselen, co-founder of Macro Business, a fantastic website, and a former Federal Treasury official. Leith, great to see you again. How serious are these criticisms from business groups and even Bill Kelty?
Yeah, look, I think, Andrew, Bill Kelty was on the money there. Look, if you just look at the data, the economy's in incredibly poor shape and living standards are going backwards. So, first of all, Australia's labour productivity is the worst in the Anglosphere since the pandemic, and it's fallen all the way back to 2016 levels. So we're going backwards there. We obviously have an acute housing shortage, which has been brought about by the Albanese government bringing in 500,000 more migrants than initially projected, which has caused that rental crisis. We got a GDP per capita recession that is the longest in modern history, having run for 6 consecutive quarters. Real per capita household disposable income has experienced one of the world's biggest declines, falling by 8.2% since Labor came to office. And also the unemployment rate's slightly higher than when Albo came to office. So basically, I think Albo's gaslighting us when he's trying to say that things are better. And here's the thing, Andrew, Australians aren't falling for it. So a Redbridge poll that was released earlier this month showed that only 24% of those surveyed could name a single thing that the Albanese government has done that has improved their situation. So that's basically 3/4 of those surveyed couldn't name a single thing that Labor's done.
Now, Leith, I bet you that you bristled like I did at hearing Albanese just say there the government's created 1 million jobs. For a start, half those jobs, by my guess, were for the massive number of immigrants it's let in. And as you say, that's helped create a housing shortage so bad that rents have exploded. Most young Australians can't afford to buy their own home. And you've just discovered the government's actually broken its promise to slash immigration.
Yeah, look, it's actually worse than that, Andrew. I mean, the Albanese government's brought in about 1.15 million migrants since it came to office. So that means that it's actually brought in more migrants than it's created in jobs. So, it's actually worse than that. But yes, the latest monthly net permanent and long-term arrivals data from the ABS showed that immigration remains at absolute turbocharged levels. So, for example, in the first 7 months of this year, so we have data for the first 7 months, and that showed that 335,200 net permanent long-term arrivals have arrived in the first 7 months of this year. Now, just to put that into perspective, that's 15,000 more than arrived last year, which was a record. And it's also 110,200 more than arrived in the same period in 2019. So what this basically tells you is that immigration is running at absolutely, ridiculous levels. And that was confirmed by the latest national accounts for June quarter, which showed that population growth is actually accelerating at about 655,000. We had about 655,000 population increase last financial year, 2023, 2024. So, the numbers are just off the charts, Andrew, and this is basically the reason why Australia's a rental crisis.
It's just incredible how they've lost control of immigration. It was only at the end of last year they said, oh no, we've got it under control now, we're going to make all these big cuts. And as you say, wait a minute, we're ahead of where we were at the same time last year. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Now, the Business Council, and I just did it then, sold it as having really taken it to the government today. I mean, they've been rolling over, rub my tummy to the government for years until they realise they've been conned. But it is still bought the Kool-Aid, I think, Leith. For one, it's telling Albanese it still supports net zero emissions by 2050, but it also does want the cheap and reliable electricity it's not getting. If you ask me, it cannot have both.
Yeah, it's certainly a contradiction in terms. And here's the thing, Andrew. Look, the Business Council is a lobby group, and everything it says should be taken with a massive spoonful of salt, just like every politician. So, the reason why I don't really trust the Business Council is they have lobbied incessantly for more immigration. They always do it. They've also remained silent on the hyperinflation of gas and electricity prices, which are obviously squeezing not just households, but also businesses. So, as to this fantastical net zero target by 2050, which is a farce, how are we possibly going to achieve that when Australia's population is projected to grow by 50% in the next 30 years, add in Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane to Australia's current population? So, look, the maths just doesn't square here. And, the Business Council's out there trumpeting net zero and cheap electricity and all this stuff, when actually the data's going the opposite way. It's getting worse.
Yeah, so they bring in 1 million people. They all have to switch on a light. They all have to have heating. They all have to have aircon. And they think, golly, this net zero transition isn't going too well. Leith Van Onselen, thank you so much for your time.